call today's Economic Development Committee to order. Welcome. A roll call, please, Amy.
Sure. Chair LaPlante.
Here.
Vice Chair Glassie.
Here.
Member Rutledge.
Here.
Member Covert. Member Childress.
Yes.
And Member Yu.
Here.
Wonderful. I move to approve the minutes from our last regular meeting on October 17th. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. For my remarks today, I would just like to welcome Lisa Shabbat. She's going to be giving us a presentation and a snapshot of what Working at DuPage has been up to. And it's going to be a very robust discussion, I'm sure, because
I don't know.
she has a lot of success stories.
Yeah, I don't know how
I'm
robust,
prepping
but
you.
I'm going to, yes, I'm gonna do my best.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, then, and do we have any public
We
comments?
do not.
Okay, great. So item 6A, 23-3720, GPN 60-23, supplemental state funding for LWIA fiscal year 24, Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity for $65,164.37.
Second.
Wonderful. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And any against? Okay, we accept and place that on file. Number 7, I motion to approve ED-P 323, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Comcast Business Services to provide internet connectivity for the Workforce Development Division for the 3-year period of December 1st, 23 through November 30th, 26, for a total contract amount of $39,238.20 for 55 Illinois competitive bids, not suitable for competitive bidding. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. And please call the roll for a vote.
Sure. Chair LaPlante.
Yes.
Vice Chair Glassie.
Yes.
Member Rutledge.
Yes.
Member Childress.
Yes.
And Member Yu.
Yes.
Perfect. That motion passes. Thank you. We have a change order. I move to approve EDCO 623 amendment to county contract number 6161 serve issued to Dell Marketing LP to add 50 enterprise mobility and security license for the Workforce Development Division and increase the contract amount $19,292.11 for a new contract amount of $70,318.40, a 37.81% increase. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? That motion passes. Wonderful. And now that brings us to our presentation.
Without further ado.
Yes, drum roll, please. May I present Lisa Shabbat?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I did not opt to do a full-scale PowerPoint. Maybe that makes people really pleased.
Yay. Trust me, we love
You know,
PowerPoint.
we're partway through a program year, and I generally like to see that full report out for June, the end of the program year, to give you that full encapsulation. But I am going to give you a snapshot, more or less, of where we're at right now. So as you know, we experienced some disruption in anticipation of the potential shutdown that was happening in Washington, D.C., and all of that. You know, that's been an ongoing saga now for months. So in September, the rate at which we have been spending, and I've alluded to this in previous presentations that did include PowerPoint, for many years now post-COVID, I would say the entire post-COVID period, DuPage County has been somewhat flipped upside down in my world from how it's been since the early 2000s when I started, in the sense that we historically have always served primarily dislocated workers, meaning people that were laid off, clocked unemployment, et cetera. That has always been the bulk of the people that we're serving, the bulk of our money. Post-COVID, the other grant that we have, the adult grant, which is generally reserved for people who meet income guidelines, that has been far and away the busiest grant. I mean, double, if not at some points triple the clientele of the other grant. So it's really remarkable when you've been doing this, when you're a workforce development geek like me, it's like, what's happening? This is really unusual. So that's been continuing on. What that means is we're spending that grant down at really rapid clip. And we were doing that prior to Washington, D.C. deciding that they were not sure if they were going to pass a budget and all that. So on September 19th, I had to push the brakes for the residents of DuPage County to apply for services through us because we would not have had sufficient funding. Long story short, we ended up finally getting our entire allocation. Mind you, our program year starts July 1, We got our full allocation, the state got the full allocation on October 30th. So it was a Halloween treat for us to finally be able to de-stress about that. That being said, we continue to see people at rapid rate that are eligible for that 1A grant. We crunched some numbers last week. We might only have, if everybody that's sort of in the pipeline goes through and gets funding for their training services that they need or want, we might only have funding at this point for like 50 additional clients that has to go all the way through the end of June. So that is not a lot. What that means is I'm probably going to take some money from other pots, specifically that dislocated worker fund, and move it to our 1A budget. I am also looking for alternate funding streams, which is what I'm going to talk a little bit about. It doesn't help us serve the general eligible public, so to speak, but it does kind of help us with some other endeavors. Additionally, I had talked to Nick and Joan previously about the possibility maybe at some point, if there is ARPA interest dollars or something along those lines, that would be something that could potentially come in really handy for us to bridge that gap if we should run out of funding at some point. So any comments or questions so far? Yeah.
So can you, I understand completely what the dislocated group of employees are that you said you're serving primarily prior to COVID. Can you just give a little more detail on this new clientele that you're seeing that's utilizing this new grant? What are they, people coming in for extra training or?
Yeah, so that's a great point, and I always assume, but like generally most of the people that apply for services for us, they're coming to us primarily because they want funding to go into an occupational training program.
Okay.
So you guys are familiar with the different sectors and the different training programs that we typically approve for those high demand, high good paying kind of career pathways. So the bulk of people that come to WorkNet, that's what they come to us for. We also have some people that maybe just come to do the workshops or to do a resume review, that kind of thing. But the bulk, what we're really known for are those federal training dollars. So pre-COVID and kind of pre-decades before, DuPage County, we were what we were seeing at WorkNet is a lot of high level professional dislocated workers or just people in general that were laid off, especially during the Great Recession and things like that. When your unemployment rate high, unemployment rate has been so low. Even pre-COVID, we were in the same spot we are now, where we were saying there's not enough workers for all these jobs and all. So the unemployment rate has been low for a long time now. I would say that's clearly a trend. Even pre-pandemic, we were in the 3% in DuPage. Now what we're seeing post-COVID, to be eligible for that adult grant that we always also have, the parallel grant, if you're collecting SNAP benefits, so food stamps, if you meet household income guidelines, we're seeing a lot of people, and this is alarming to me, a lot of people who are working, but they meet the income guidelines. So that is, that's one of the most disheartening things about what we're seeing, is that there's a lot of people that are out there working, or the household is holding down 2-3 jobs and they still meet the federal income guidelines.
So are they coming to you for like training to increase their like marketability for a higher paying job? Is that what they're doing?
Exactly.
Okay.
Increase their earning potential,
Okay.
Either change onto a different career pathway or a career pathway versus kind of holding down jobs, things like that.
Can you speak to, that's a great question, and you explained what is happening. Can you please speak to what you think of as your position here since the early 2000s as to the why behind this and the increase in the differentiated needs that you're seeing?
You know, it's interesting. I think it has to do with the overarching theme, and Mr. Badalov and I feel like every time we see each other, we talk about this. We talk about this same kind of theme. The labor force in general and just the demographic shifts, I believe, are everything that I see and read points to this, is leading to there just not being enough labor to meet needs. So what that has led to both pre and now post-COVID is people aren't getting laid off in as big of numbers. And so the dislocated worker makes sense to me. The reason why we're seeing so many more income eligible people, I think it could be a post-COVID effect, that people are just still kind of feeling the after effects of the different struggles that they went through there. They might have longer employment gaps that are hindering them getting back into higher paying occupations. The cost of living has gone up. As we know, inflation and that is really taking a toll. I think that those are probably the big factors. I think that another thing is, I made it a point when I started this role, Joan can attest to this, of really getting our name out there and boosting brand awareness. And we've done that really, really well. We get referrals from, in some of our all staff meetings, we hear from all the places that we've gotten client referrals from, and it's really diverse. So that's great. The downside to that is I don't have the resources all the time to be able to serve all those people, and not everybody that comes to us might be eligible for that funding. And then that puts us in a tight spot because we're trying to figure out how else to help them. But I think that that increased outreach has led to more and more people being aware of what WorkNet DuPage is, what we can do, and that's driving up those numbers, other community organizations and things like that.
So need plus outreach equals these much, much, much bigger numbers. that you're seeing.
Yes.
Do you have an idea of where you see this going and trending the next year, 3 years, 5 years?
I would say we're gonna, if I had to predict, I would say the unemployment rate's gonna continue to be low. Just because employers don't want to get rid of the talent that they do have. If they can have any, if they can prevent it in any which way, they're trying to avoid layoffs, it seems.
Okay.
When layoffs are happening, interestingly enough, I've seen this term used a couple times and it tracks with what we're seeing. The term rich session, which is a new buzzword.
That.
What we're seeing as far as people who are being laid off, it's not what we were seeing earlier in previous iterations of my career here, where it was like a manufacturing plant's going under. And so there's 50 production workers and warehouse workers. And we're thinking, let's get them maybe onto different career tracks. Everything's being outsourced. It's not those kind of lower mid-level positions, it's the high-level positions. So we just got one for Walgreens. We got a WARN notice through, which is a mass layoff notice. 97 people, I want to say, in Woodridge, and they're all senior level, executive level, IT, a lot of IT layoffs. And so that term is being thrown around like there is a recession happening potentially, but it's more so affecting the higher level positions and the tech professionals than it is kind of your mid or lower level positions. So that's an interesting nuance.
It is. I would have thought IT was tech recession proof.
You would think that,
Isn't
but
that what we all thought?
it seems like the layoffs that are occurring are heavy duty tech. You see the big ones, right? In the national news, you see like, Facebook or, different companies like that. They were right sizing their workforce is what they were doing. That seems to have slowed down, but even kind of corporate layoffs that are happening, it's affecting people basically that have the highest salaries and a lot of the tech professionals.
So 2 comments. One, I guess just forward thinking, I have a senior in college right now, and I'm helping a lot of his friends try to get jobs. I mean, it's bad out there for these college graduates right now. And I'm just concerned that that is going to start to trickle into the issues that we're having with, I don't know if you're seeing that. I mean, that's not, I know your clientele, but I just feel like that's a foreshadowing of the economy.
I think it's going to get more competitive because there are kind of other professional services type people maybe that have experience, but it can cut both ways. And like for your purposes with the young people that you're advising, sometimes that's a benefit because number one, they're going to command a lower salary, which is attractive to employers sometimes versus hiring somebody at like double the cost. But they can also spin that as, they haven't picked up habits from anywhere else. They're sort of like a blank, like a moldable piece of clay, if you will.
Right.
And that's something for them to utilize in their interviewing. It's an interviewing tweak. I know you know a lot of that.
No, I'm just so concerned. I mean, I can't believe how many kids can't get jobs. It's crazy. And
Well,
like,
and on the other hand, we hear from employers are like, we need all the young people you can get. And then you send them 10 young people and it's like, yeah, we didn't find a fit there. Like,
I know.
So,
Like
yeah.
the consulting firms that normally would hire like 10 kids from where my kids go to school, they hire 3. And then the top ones aren't hiring any. I mean, and then the big 4 didn't hire anybody. I mean, it's bad. So
Right,
just know that's coming down the pipe.
yeah.
But you mentioned that you have the bandwidth for like 50 more clients that you could serve until end of June. What do you think from a dollars perspective? Like, what would your 100, like how many do you think are going to come to you looking for need?
That's a great question. So 50 new people, and I could pull up, if I had my laptop handy, I'd pull up all my spreadsheets and have exact numbers, and I will certainly pull that together. 50 people we calculated at approximately $6,000 a head because we estimate we're gonna have about $295,000 left.
Okay.
I think with eligible people that are coming to us, we would easily want to serve, if not double that, like at least 25 to 30 more.
Okay.
It's just the bulk of who's coming in.
Yeah.
And from my standpoint, as the leader of the organization, and I can speak for all of my staff, those are the people that you don't want, you feel the worst about turning away, because it's not somebody coming in with a master's degree that was laid off from their position and they need a new, project management cert. You're kind of in the back of your head, like, they probably could get a job with what they have if we, made the right, if they kind of did this or that. These are folks generally that are coming in where you're really like, they need this occupational training to really have a life altering kind of tweak to their career path.
Right.
So it's tough, but it's something that I'm going to be closely keeping this committee apprised of, because I don't want us to hit that point. I do have the flexibility to move dislocated worker dollars to our adult grant, and that's always my first step.
Sure.
Generally, we don't ask for or take any money out of it because I have enough to go around, and I stretch it as much as we can. I'm a little worried this time that we might hit a point after maybe the third quarter of our program year where we're like, sorry, like we're creating a wait list. I don't want to do that, especially for this population.
Sure.
Right. Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, maybe I missed it, but could you tell me how much you received for the adult grant for your program year and how many clients you serve, generally speaking? Because I know that you said that we've got 50 more room for that, but prior to that, how many people have you been serving?
Have we already served?
Yeah.
May I pull together details on that and send it to this committee after the meeting? Generally, our total allocation always hovers around $5 million. For each grant, we get more dislocated worker money based off the formula that the Department of Labor uses. And we need the other. So I just keep kind of moving. But the dislocated worker this past year was approximately 2 million. And the adult was like approximately, I think, 1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
We always spend in the ballpark of 60%. We're required to spend 50% at minimum on training services for job seekers or business of our entire budget. We always end up on the high side of all of the workforce areas in the state. We're always more around 60% because we run a pretty lean operation otherwise. But I'll pull together comprehensive numbers on who we've served so far this year, how many are currently enrolled, and then how many, what the total allocation is.
Okay, thank you.
I think this just proves how vital the services you're providing are.
It's,
Look at the need.
yes, and the impact of it, you guys have all been so great about, being big supporters of what we do, but you hear those success stories and that's day in and day out for us, is hearing the impact that it has on people's lives, quite frankly. I mean, because once you double your income, I mean, you think about that, somebody who was making $15 an hour and receiving SNAP benefits, and then they go up to, they're making $60,000 a year or $65,000. We hear that a lot in the employment status forms we have them complete with the comments, and it's like these great testimonials. So naturally, I'm a big believer in the impact that what we do, especially for that population, but really for everybody that helps to us.
Definitely.
So on that note, if I may, I wanted to just talk about the $65,000 really briefly that you all just got the notification of. That is a first ever in the history of workforce development, basically, in the state of Illinois. The state supplemental funds, the state actually gave general revenue funds based off of a formula to each of the local workforce areas in the state, including us, which was $65,000 and some change. I wrote for the full amount, actually. I'm gonna take every dollar I can get, but these are unrestricted dollars, which is like I have to talk to my staff. We have to get out of the WIOA paradigm with this. If we can do whatever we want, there's no WIOA eligibility. So what I elected to do with this is I wrote the grant application to utilize this to sort of extend the back to school, back to work initiative that we did, because that was so well received, and we're still seeing and hearing kind of the after effects of that. I'm working with College of DuPage. They are working to put together what I like to call like a computer soft skills training for folks that have had that career break, because trying to go back into the workplace when you haven't used the most recent version of Microsoft Outlook or Teams or whatever. They're putting together a curriculum for that, and then I'm hoping to offset some costs for that, offering of like a cohort for these individuals through these dollars. And then also kind of onesie twosie people that participated. We're going to start with the people that participated in the series and find out what their training needs are if they have them. And then we'll be able to pay for that through these dollars. So I'm excited about that. And it's like a whole new world, not having to think about, eligibility stuff. I did want to share one email that we received about the back to school, back to work. We got one of my staff, Susie Pajero, received an email from a woman who attended the session, and it's a long email. She had a lot to say, but I condensed it down a little bit. She said, I've come to about half a dozen WorkNet events. My first were the 3 seminars in the back to school, back to work series. Before, my neighbor recommended that I go to WorkNet, and I found out about the back to work series. Which the fact that her neighbor knew about WorkNet again is like, that's no small thing. I had sent out about 100 applications and copies of my resume and hadn't gotten any calls for interviews. I was trying to transition from human services to legal. And even though I had the necessary education, I didn't know I'd be able to find a firm where I could work part-time. I'm a single parent with a daughter with a disability. At the back to school, back to work sessions, I realized my resume was structured completely incorrectly for a legal position. And I did some hard work on it, began targeting firms where I could see myself working, and began to submit a custom cover letter when applying. So you guys know those were all things we were hammering home in that. She ended up, with the assistance of one of the panelists who kind of took her under her wing, she ended up landing a job, a part-time job at a legal firm really rapidly after making some of these changes. So she said, thank you for your encouragement and positivity. I felt completely different about the job hunt after coming to WorkNet. And especially after talking to you, I felt like I could make concrete steps toward applying for a job. The mindset shift that I was able to undergo because of WorkNet really helped me to get out of bed every day, be a more patient parent during this time, and be more confident in interviews. Thank you for what you do. You're valued and wonderful. So those are the kinds of things that my staff, I'm always like, send them to me, because I don't get to talk to the people as much as I used to. And I like to still, have my finger on the pulse of that. But that was a tremendous initiative between myself, College of DuPage, Choose DuPage, and the effects of it are still going to go on. And I'm using these dollars to that end. So I wanted to make you all aware of that.
Great.
Couple other things. So I have about 5 minutes. I didn't need you, Greg, to fill out this. So
Here for you if you need.
I was calculating out, because I didn't know off the top of my head, and COVID still sort of jazzed up my time, my sense of time. But I've been in this role for 6.5 years now, approximately. And when I started, one of the things that was routinely, one of the objectives, I guess, that was sort of set out for me was that our organization was perceived as sort of being on an island, like we're off-site. Other people within the county weren't really necessarily aware of what we do. There wasn't a lot of interaction with other departments and things like that. So I wanted to highlight a few things that I just think are really cool, plus they're just projects I'm excited about, but they entail other departments or divisions within the county, and they align with the county strategic plan, the economic strategic plan, and our workforce strategic plan as well. So I thought they'd be of interest. The first is I was approached by Joy Hines, Public Works, and this obviously aligns with sustainability. They got an energy efficiency conservation block grant. And there was the option of a workforce development component to that, in addition to things like replacing LED lights and charging stations. So they approached me about that, and because I know Joy, and she said, let's see if we could do something with this. So we have a slice of money for that. We're looking at options like maybe working with College of DuPage or other HVAC trainers to expand. We talked about heat pumps, about heat pump installation and different things along those lines. We might be getting a pre-trades apprenticeship for EV technicians, different options like that. But these, again, are not WIOA dollars. So the only restriction is there's certain neighborhoods or census tracts within the county that we're supposed to draw trainees from. But this is something that I'm going to be kind of repeatedly circling back to and keeping you guys apprised of. It's a nice long grant, so there's not like a due date of the end of June or anything like that. It might take some time to develop, but it naturally aligns really well with the county's goals of sustainability and workforce development. So that I have that in the works with Public Works. Tim McGavin from Probation also approached me. They have a Department of Justice grant, and they've been doing various things with it, but they're looking to establish recovery community centers, one in Addison and one in Naperville. And these are for individuals that went through the drug court program, as well as the veterans court program. And again, workforce development and how to get people reestablished in careers. And so my team is working with them on that initiative as well. So we're excited to be playing a part there. And then lastly, just of DuPage recently, they have some new staff. They came out to our center. We've worked with them on and off for a few years now. My staff's going to be going into the jail, meeting with a bunch of the soon to be released inmates there to kind of get their career plans in motion before they come out. What I'm looking to do with this is be what I believe will be the first in the state to use WIOA dollars to do transitional jobs, which will allow us to basically like pay people's wages or reimburse employers 100% of wages if they give a second chance to somebody who's recently released from the jail.
I love that.
So it's all kind of tying together. I like the sort of synergy of all of it, and I wanted to make you guys aware that a lot of the stuff that we're doing dovetails really nicely with things like sustainability, DEI, and all of those other kind of strategic priorities of the county.
I love that. Thank you for explaining all of that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And I'm so glad that we're aware of all the good work that's being done. Please keep us apprised, especially that JUST program. That's, I think that's fascinating and so important to economic development and community development. So wonderful partnership.
Thank you.
Yes. Member Glenn.
So a couple questions. I've been active with the JUST program and taken a lot of people through who are more interested in it. Do you know if they're going to be utilizing volunteers for that program, or will it be your staff to try to help get the detainees kind of on their career path?
Well, my staff will certainly be involved, but volunteers.
Yeah, please let me know if you need
Yeah.
volunteers, because I've had many people say, how can I get involved? And that would be a really interesting and
Yeah.
meaningful way to do that.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I would love to explore that with you. I mean,
Okay.
the more hands on deck, obviously,
Yeah.
the better, the more connections people
Sure,
have,
exactly.
and all of that. So indeed, yeah, that would be something I'll let
Okay.
you know when
Awesome.
we're ready to roll.
Yeah, thanks. And then secondly, did you happen to have any employers say that they had success hiring anybody from the back to school, back to work program, or?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I
Not
think,
yet.
yeah, not yet.
Not
It
yet.
seems to take the tone more of like I think they were mentoring the
Okay,
women and
okay.
a couple gentlemen in
Yeah.
attendance. I'm not aware of any hires. However, the survey that we put out ahead of time, I handpicked out of that. We've talked about, not all of them had positive responses
Yeah.
to like their parent-friendly policies,
Sure.
but I have a list of about 32 businesses that we are going to add to that landing page on our website and hyperlink,
Oh, good.
so that parents
Okay.
that visit that page, or any career breakers that visit that page, they'll see a list of these companies to at least start their job search with,
Perfect.
that
Okay,
have-
that's great.
different
Yeah.
kinds of parent-friendly benefits.
Yeah. Very cool. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Linda. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Thank you. And,
$65,000.
Remember I'll get back to you and the committee with more details on the exact numbers. And please feel free, of course, at any time, any questions or anything that comes up, give me a shout. You guys all know how to get in touch with me.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that presentation. Does anyone have any old business? No. Any new business? Seeing none, I would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you at our next meeting next month. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.